Oh my gosh. And I was literally so emotional, like it broke me. So funny. Guys, there are so many scenes I want to talk about, like the basket. They all need to go outside, breathe some fresh air, touch some grass. But lo and behold, I did listen to... That's good. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to share with you guys all the books that I read in January, to share my thoughts on them, just tell you about them because I read a lot of great books this month, and hopefully you get a good book recommendation out of this video, so keep watching. Between Us by Vari McFarlane. So I did that on audiobook, so I'll put a little picture of the book here. I loved this book. It was so surprisingly good. I'd never listened or read a Vari McFarlane book before, and I think I talked about this in another video. I would have never heard about her if not for Haley Pham. Haley Pham is a huge booktuber creator, and so if you don't know who Haley Pham is, then first of all, I don't know how you wouldn't know who Haley Pham is, but she's amazing and I love her videos, and she just raves about Vari McFarlane. I think I also said in another video that I would have never known how to even say her name had not Haley Pham told us all how to say Vari, but it's a very cool name. So here's the description of Between Us by Vari McFarlane. International bestseller, Vari McFarlane delivers a witty, clever, emotional new novel about a woman whose life unravels spectacularly after her screenwriter boyfriend uses their relationship as inspiration for his new television show. When Rasheen, I think I'm saying her name right, when Rasheen and Joe join their friends for a weekend at a country house, it's a triple celebration: a birthday, an engagement, and the launch of Joe's shiny new TV show. But as the weekend unfolds, tensions come to light in the group, and Rasheen begins to question her own relationship. As they watch the first episode of Joe's drama, she realizes that the private things she told him, which should have stayed between them, are right there on the screen. With her friend group in chaos and her messy love life on display for the whole world to see, Rasheen returns home to avoid the unwanted attention and help run her family's pub. But drama still follows in the form of her dysfunctional family and the looming question: what other parts of her now ex's show are inspired by real events? Lies? Infidelity? Every week as a new episode airs, she wonders what other secrets will be revealed. Yet the most unexpected twist of it all is an old friend who's suddenly there for Rasheen in ways she never knew she needed. So right off the bat, I would rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I would give it a maturity rating of PG-13. There's nothing graphic, sexually, or violence in it at all. I will say that there are some trigger warnings about infidelity and also abortion, domestic violence, but none of those topics are explored in a detailed way. It's just kind of mentioned or talked about generally. It really makes me so sad when covers are misleading, and so the cover for this kind of looks like a sweet romance book, but it's really not. It is so much deeper than that. It is about this woman, all the things that she's overcoming as she's just maturing. It talks a lot about her childhood and just kind of the environment that she grew up in that made her the way that she is, and it explains a lot of the ways that she acts in her friendships and her relationships in this book. It's also about a big friend group and the different relationships in their friend group. It also kind of reminded me of The Wedding People by, I think her name is Alison Espach, if I'm saying that correctly. It's kind of like a coming of age book for an adult, which I think is a really cool like subgenre. I think it's really cool to read about somebody that is kind of transforming later in life. They have a lot of things that they're unlearning or just rediscovering about themselves. They're kind of breaking away from the mold that they've been living in for a long time, and it's really cool. It's really inspiring to read stories about women like that. The gaslighting in this book is literally crazy. Like, there are so many versions of reality being told in the beginning of the book by all of the characters that I literally didn't know who was telling the truth, and so that was kind of fun. Kind of felt like a murder mystery thriller but within a contemporary book, so you're just kind of trying to parse through the versions of the events and trying to figure out who's telling the truth, who you are supposed to trust, who's like intentions are good, whose intentions are bad. Vari's writing is so funny. I almost forgot to say that, but literally the characters in this book are hilarious. It is so funny. You'll have a great time reading it. But I think I did rate it 4 stars and not 5 because it wasn't like one of my favorite books ever, and 5 stars are pretty reserved for my favorite books ever, or this book was just really emotional, really touched me. And so that is a perfect segue into my next book. The next book that I read in January, and that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I gave this book a whopping 5 stars, and I would rate it maturity rating of R. I know that there's a lot of mixed opinions about this book. Some people just, it didn't resonate with them. Some people found that it was dragging or confusing. Literally one of my friends commented on my Goodreads rating and review, and she was like, did we even read the same book? Because she gave it like a much lower rating. She really didn't like it. And so this book is truly not for everyone. I know a lot of people that I have similar book taste to didn't enjoy it, but for some reason it really resonated with me. I thought it was so intelligent. I thought Gabrielle Zevin's writing was brilliant. I thought the story was so unique and the characters were so full. They really felt like real people to me. They were not two-dimensional at all. They were very intelligent. They had their own unique personalities and their own stories. And it was just a really, really great book. So let me tell you a little bit about what it is about if you've never heard of this book. In this exhilarating novel, 2 friends, often in love but never lovers, come together as creative partners in the world of video game design, where success brings them fame, joy, tragedy, duplicity, and ultimately a kind of immortality. On a bitter cold day in the December of his junior year at Harvard, Sam Masser exits a subway car and sees, amid the hordes of people waiting on the platform, Sadie Green. He calls her name. For a moment, she pretends she hasn't heard him, but then she turns and a game begins. A legendary collaboration that will launch them to stardom. These friends, intimate since childhood, borrow money, beg favors, and before even graduating college, they have created their first blockbuster, It Should Go. I know I'm saying that wrong. It Could Go? I'm really sorry. Overnight, the world is theirs. Not even 25 years old, Sam and Sadie are brilliant, successful, and rich, but these qualities won't protect them from their own creative ambitions or the betrayals of their hearts. Spanning 30 years from Cambridge, Massachusetts to Venice Beach, California, and lands in between and far beyond, Gabrielle Zevin's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a dazzling and intricately imagined novel that examines the multifarious nature of identity, disability, failure, the redemptive possibilities in play, and above all, our need to connect, to be loved, and to love. Yes, it is a love story, but it is not one that you have read before. The description is so good, and it's really just that. Like, it is not anything I expected, and if you can't tell by the way I've talked about this book and Between Us, I love unexpected books. I love reading a description of a book and kind of just being intrigued and then getting to the end and being kind of in awe of how much different I thought it was gonna be, in a good way, obviously. I wasn't disappointed in the slightest. Like I said, it is kind of complicated. It's kind of dense at sometimes. There's a lot of words. I talked about that in my other video, is that Gabrielle Zevin is so smart. She taught me so many words I didn't know. I was constantly having to Google the definition for words that she was using. But I personally love that because it had me underlying stuff. It had me learning. I clearly love my romance. I clearly love my fantasy. But it is really refreshing to read a fictional storyline that is just very unique and not something that you've seen before. Because romances are really fun and they make you feel really happy and warm and fuzzy inside. But there's not a ton of different ways that romances can go, and so I think it is really refreshing to just kind of branch out and read something new. So I loved it. You might not, but you should give it a try. Oh my gosh. And I was literally so emotional. I can understand why you wouldn't like this book at first, but if you make it to the end, I don't know how you're not emotional. There's a chapter in there that I literally was crying. It broke me. Oh my gosh. So I talked about how Gabrielle Zevin is so intelligent and all of her like vocab and all that, but the parallels in this book, I have never read anything like it. So brilliantly woven together. Gabrielle mentions things in like chapter 1 to early beginnings of the book, and then she brings them back to be referenced towards the end in key moments and peak conflict and some of the most emotional parts of the book, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so incredible. It doesn't even seem real that they could be fake. Like, it's some of the details that would only exist for people that have real lives, like, and have lived 30, 40 years. Like, I really just don't understand how authors can be that smart that they can write full different people in a full different world, and they all have their own backstories and they have years and years of their own personal history and relationship history. It's just, it blows my mind. My next book is one that I literally never would have thought that I listened to this, guys. I've talked about how I really don't understand the hype for the Magnolia Parks universe. the Magnolia Parks Daisy Hates series by Jessa Hastings. No shade, I just didn't understand why they were so loved. I just didn't get it. But lo and behold, I did listen to Daisy Hates this month. So that is something I never thought I would say. Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I gave it 3 stars and I would give it a maturity rating of R. These characters, let me tell you, they just say they are relationally tangled, okay? There's a lot of different love triangle, square, octagons going on in these books. Anyways, I gave this book another try because I really wanted to see if I was wrong, if I really just needed to give it another go, but I don't think they're for me. Let me just read you the description if you haven't heard of this series. All 20-year-old Daisy Hates has ever wanted is a normal life, but it's just not in the cards for her. Raised by her older brother Julian since their parents were murdered in front of them 12 years ago, Daisy hasn't ever lived beyond the watchful gaze of her gang lord brother. But Julian's line of work means that Daisy's life is complicated, and things don't become any less complex when she falls hard for Christian Hems, the beautiful and emotionally unavailable boy she's been involved with for the last few months, who also happens to be one of the few men in London who doesn't answer to Julian. Christian's life is no walk in the park either, being in love with his best friend's girlfriend and all. He's happy enough to use Daisy to throw off the scent of his true affections, that is, until she starts to infiltrate those two. As their romance blossoms into something neither were anticipating, Daisy, Christian, and Julian each have to come to terms with the fact that in this life, everything comes at a price. As their relationships intersect and tangle, they all learn that sometimes life's most worthwhile pursuits can only be paid in blood. I am a loyal listener to the Bookmark podcast with Sarah Caroli and Destiny Sidwell, and Sarah, I think, was talking about in a recent episode, how you really just need to give Magnolia Parks universe another try. A lot of people don't really resonate with Magnolia, but then they really like Daisy. If you didn't know, like, the book is focused on those 2 girls, Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, and so the first book is Magnolia, the second book is Daisy, and then it alternates again. I think there's 5 books, so there's 3 Magnolia Parks books and then 2 Daisy Hates books. And so I was like, I'm gonna trust them. Maybe the first book just wasn't for me, but maybe the second book gets better and I'm really gonna get into it. No. So I will say that this book was significantly better than Magnolia's. I really didn't enjoy Magnolia's because it focuses a lot on just her materialism, and it was kind of fun to read about, like, in a Gossip Girl kind of way, but it's way more fun to watch Gossip Girl and, like, see the outfits than read about the outfits being described and stuff. Personally, for me, it just wasn't the same as being able to look at someone's outfit. I really didn't understand the references that Jessica was making. Coffee break. But anyways, Daisy Hates book was a lot more interesting. Daisy is in the same world as Magnolia. She is mutual friends. They don't really like each other, actually, so they know each other in this book, but they're very different. They live very different lives, and so Daisy's book was way more interesting to me than Magnolia's, but I don't think I will be continuing it because I just find these books so, like, they're so lacking. Like, they're definitely entertaining in, like, a reality television drama kind of way, but there's really nothing like a storyline. I guess there is, but I can't with the romances in these. Like, it's just so unrealistic. It's so melodramatic. Like, the characters are so unbelievable. They all need to go outside, breathe some fresh air, touch some grass, remind themselves what reality is. But I know that's a lot of why people love it. It's because the characters are so crazy. They're so rich. They live all these lives that are just so unrealistic. And so I understand why people like the books. I will say I enjoyed it. It was very entertaining to listen to in my audiobook. I was very entertained and I was very interested in what was going to happen next, but I feel like there's so many other books that I could spend my time reading and listening to that I would enjoy a lot more than this series. Those are my thoughts on Daisy Hates, and my 4th and final book of January is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Guys, this book was everything to me. 5 stars, 5 stars, so easy. Again, I know, these books, some people love them, Some people are really upset with the way that Rebecca is continuing the series. I have a lot of thoughts that I can share with you. And I actually was filming a video because my fiance loves these books also. He has read all of them. He finished this one before me. He finished it literally like a week after it came out, and this took me like 2 weeks to get through. I have a video that I filmed us reading it and talking about it together, so hopefully I can get that up soon. Like I said, 5 stars. I loved this book. I would definitely give it a maturity rating of R. Rebecca Yarros's books are not for the weak. Pretty explicit in violence. It's a war. There's a war going on, and so there's lots of death, lots of violence, hand-to-hand combat, there's dragons, there's magic, there's all of that. But there also is quite a few sexual scenes. I will say, somebody asked me my opinions on these books before, and I really don't like to use the word smut. Okay, I really don't like that word. But these just don't qualify as smut to me because this book is 527 pages, okay? And there are explicit scenes in here, and I want to warn people about that. I personally wish it wasn't in here because it makes me not able to recommend them to people. It is not, I don't think it's really good for my mind to be reading that stuff. But you can't argue with the fact that this is a 527 page book, and there's like 4 chapters of that in here. So this is literally an incredible book about dragons and war and love and sacrifice. Okay, there's so much more to this than the romance. Even though I love Violet and Xaden so much, they're probably my favorite book couple ever, there's just so much more to the plot, okay? And I'm tired of having to defend that. 5 stars, like I said, rated R, like I said. Please be warned, getting into this book, I don't recommend it for anybody that is not an adult over 18, 20, so not for young readers at all. Can't read the description of this book because it is the 3rd book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, and so if you even go onto Goodreads or Google and read the description of Onyx Storm, you will probably find a spoiler, but I can read you the plot for Fourth Wing, which is the 1st book in the series. Enter the brutal and elite world of a war college for dragon riders. 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general, also known as her tough as Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre, dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Xaden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet, with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly. The kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers. Everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there are only 2 ways out. Graduate or die. So good. So I have been obsessed with this series since I read the 1st book, and it is a 5-book series, and this book just came out in January. It just came out January 21st of this year, and so I'm really sad that I'm already done with it because there are 2 more books in the series, and Rebecca will probably come out with the next one next year, and then the final book of the series will probably come out in 2027, which is just bonkers to even think that far ahead. But I'm so excited. I'm really excited to see how she wraps things up. I'm also really excited to see how this book gets adapted into a TV show. A lot of people are aware that the rights for this show has been bought, and Rebecca is one of the executive producers, I think. And so I really think that she isn't going to let them do a great job on this. Like, she is going to make sure that this book gets translated onto the screen perfectly. Like, I just believe that about her. She is such a fun author to follow along with and just like to watch interviews. She's so fun and she's so kind. I also have been meaning to read a lot more of her books because she, I think, originally started with romance and contemporary novels, and I think that this is her first branching out into fantasy. And so for her first branching out into fantasy, this is an incredible success. This series really put her on the map, and so I'm really glad that she's getting her flowers and lots of people are reading her backlist. This was literally the funniest book in the entire series. I was laughing so hard. The characters in this book are so funny. There are so many scenes I want to talk about, like the basket. If you've read this book, you know. All the papers. Sorrengail, 2 R's. They're so sassy, they're so witty, they're so clever, they're hilarious, they're so tough. I love these characters. I literally miss them. Like, I finished this book like a week ago and I miss them already. I want to go back and read them again. I was talking to my friend Grace about it. It is actually ridiculous how emotionally attached I feel to these characters. They just feel so real to me. And when you've read 3 books of them, I feel very connected to them. I feel like I know them, like they're really in my life. Also wanted to say that this book was a lot better than the second book. So the first book kind of wrapped everybody in. Majority of people loved Fourth Wing. Then Rebecca came out with the second book in the series, which is called Iron Flame. And I think across the board, everyone was kind of disappointed in that one. It kind of dragged on. It could have been shorter. But this book, I really feel like made up for it. And so if you read the first and second books and you were disappointed by the second book, you weren't sure if you were going to continue the series, I would really recommend you continue it because I personally loved it. Can't shut up about it, can't say enough good things about it. I just love it so much. Something new that I am doing this month and this year is I am doing a reading journal. So if you've watched booktubers before, you've probably seen people setting up their reading journals and just logging their monthly reading. And so I'm really excited to do that this year. I have my little cutouts of my books that I'm going to put in my reading journal, and I'm also filming a video on that too. So if you want inspiration on like how to set your reading journal up, how to make your spreads, I'm gonna be doing some of those. Been watching a lot of videos on how to do that because it's a very fun thing to do in the book community. That is my wrap up for January. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got a good book recommendation out of it. If you read a book that you just cannot shut up about, a book that you would like me to read or you think I would really like, please comment it below. I'm always looking for book recommendations. I hope you guys had a great month of reading in January, and I will hopefully see you very soon. Bye.